Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So a W showcase has just dropped and I happen to have already finished it 100%. Effectively, I finished the entire right side completely itemless, and then I got a bit lazy on the left side and didn't restart when I should have at the very beginning, and ended up using one single revive. So that was my total item use for this. You can definitely do it itemless and quite easily, so it is significantly easier than the previous AW showcase. And yeah, I just got a bit lazy, so I just tossed a single revive at it. But that said, obviously I do want you guys to have as best of a time with it as you can, because I genuinely had fun with this piece of content. I quite enjoyed it. So I have a guide for you. And let's break it down. So I have listed all the champions on the right side and on the left side. Overall, I would say the left side is the easier side. Ironically, the side where I used an item. I have written down my team for each of the sides and who I swapped in. And then I wrote down exactly which champion I used. But obviously, not every single one of you will have the necessary champions ranked up. And I will break down each and every single one of the fights. Before we do that, there are a couple of aspects of x-magica, attack tactic, that you need to understand. With x-magica, you do not only get these prowesses and ability to deal with the indestructibles from Magic Thief defensive tactic. You also effectively completely shut down their ability power rate. 20% per prowess, you can go up to 7, so you can completely shut down their ability power rate by having 7 prowesses active. And you also, and that's actually not listed in the note description because Kabam changed it later, you reduce opponent's beautify ability accuracy by 35% with each prowess. So like 3-4 prowess and none of them work. So that said, actually need to change all of this to 4+ prowess because it's quite important here. 4 prowess and none of these, because with 3 prowess you still have 5% chance. Anyways, 4. Right, so CGR, pretty much any tactic champion can do this. I primarily use Kushala, but Hood, etc. can work for this fight. The key here is for you not to degen is never let him throw a heavy attack and never push him to level 2. That is why I get degen. The reason for that is because he gets a fury buff from the node, and that counts towards one of his judgments, which means you have less room for error. In order to do this fight well, don't launch him, don't let him charge heavy, don't push him to level 2, and that is it. Ideally, if you want to make this fight a lot simpler for yourself, parry his projectile hits, and then you will gain prowesses super easily and not spend them. So do not dex the entire level 1. Just parry the hits if you can get that down. Makes it easier. Against Lady Deathstrike, White Tiger, Kushala, or any champion that deals with the region, because she is not a tactic fight. And because of it, you don't need to worry about the instructables, of course. The region there is quite crazy. I brought in Hercules once by mistake, and it was wrong. I couldn't outdamage her. So, ideally, have some sort of regen mitigation ability, or just a nullify immune champion, because Buffet over time is where majority of her regen comes from, alongside with Dark Overlord, of course. But as long as you can deal with her regen, you're fine. And in my case, I used once White Tiger and Kushala the second time around. So, additional advice here is with White Tiger or any other champs, you can hit her block to get her out of the frenzy mode to activate your special attack safety at any given point, or obviously intercept Lady Deathstrike. So against Kate, any tactic champion is going to work because it is absolutely a vanilla fight. Keep in mind, parry her 4 times at the beginning and you can attack her normally. You don't even have to play her as stun immune champion because of the x-magica tactic, and then it's a vanilla fight. And Kingpin seems like it would be a dangerous fight, but the same thing here. Just parry him a bunch of times in the beginning. His debuff purification abilities will be gimped immediately, and then becomes a straightforward fight. I just used bishop for this one, and there was absolutely nothing to it, really. Nick is a bit tricky. Nick does require you to have counters for hazard shift, shock, and incinerate. And I personally used Havoc. It was fairly straightforward solo. You do want to use a tactic champion for Nick. Ideally, use tactic champion. But, you know, plenty of mutants would work there. So we have Bishop, Havoc, Kushala, Emma, Iceman, all of whom have either, you know, partial immunity to the hazard shift node or full immunity. So in my case, Havoc did the job. He's incinerate immune, and when I get a couple of shocks, you know, I just get a little extra damage. So it was quite a straightforward fight. With Bishop, again, you kind of have to slow play it, but you'll do fine, especially if your Bishop's quite big. And you can just also play into the immunities. Iceman's incinerate immune. Emma can be shock and incinerate immune. Kushala is incinerate immune. You can also bring in Odin and give any champion that shock resistance to make it easier for yourself, should you choose to do so. Against Adam, I personally used White Tiger because White Tiger has, you know, great power stealing abilities. I do think that Void with decent RNG could work here decently as well. Or alternatively, honestly, I think the best option is just to rely on Indestructible 3 boost that we are given by Kabam in this fight and just nuke him down. If you don't have like a very solid option that manages Adam Warlock's power well, I just go for the nuke option and push him to level 3s. That's just my advice. Just, you know, bring in super high damage, ideally tactic champion, and go for nuke. But yeah, for me, White Tiger was incredible. It was super quick and easy fight. Against Shuri, you can kind of cheese her with Havoc and Bishop. That's what I did both go-rounds. You know, got hit by her purposely because she can't crit. She does very little damage. I got some shocks on me. And then I kind of like watched her melt as I was slowly building up to my level 2s. Additional thing, again, the tactic champions with 4+ prowess ignore Conflictor. So that is something you do not need to worry about anymore there. And other than that, you know, try to alternate your combos, not giving her too many prowess. Additionally, you can use Mystic tactic champions for this fight. And, you know, deal with that prowess. Because I don't think she is Nullify immune. She is not. So you can purposely repeat your combos, give her prowess debuffs, and then use nullification with some of your Mystic champions. But it's a fairly straightforward fight against Shuri. And against Thing, you pretty much want a tactic champion. It's very hard to do it without a tactic champion. There are a couple that can kind of do well halfway through, like Crossbones can be like super aggressive and, you know, do a lot of damage before you kind of get screwed, and Black Cat as well. For the most part, you're probably best taking it slow and, you know, relying on hitting his block and then having some decent damage delivery method. For me personally, my Void did the charm. It was like 3-4 minute fight with a 6.5% Void. Slowly but surely I took him down. Void is a tactic champion. You can control the fight. There's not major issue. With Havoc, you can do decently well as well by, you know, utilizing your level 3s. Ideally get some power back boosts going as well. The Toad is another champion that I used against Things in Battlegrounds when this tactic was live. Werewolf by Night can do this fight also. So can Wiccan and Mojo. Those are the best options in my opinion. Again, I personally used Void. It was fairly straightforward. And the left side, it's kind of much more open, to be honest. We already discussed CGR and Lady Deathstrike fights. Lady Deathstrike, surprisingly, you know, got taken down quite easily with Kushala. And then we really need to discuss the Arcus, Infinity War, Spot and Void. And none of these are tactic fights. So I need to change this. So none of these are tactic fights. And that means you can use anybody who does those fights well enough. Against Arcus, I still ended up using Kushala and, you know, just nullifying, putting level 2s. Again, you don't really need to worry about Arcus's power gain if you're using a tactic champion, because you can get up to 7 prowesses and then Rich get richer node, doesn't matter. Oh wait, Arcus is a tactic fight. My bad. But yeah, Kushala did great here because when you parry him a bunch of times, he cannot shrug off your debuffs because tactic stops him from purifying. You also stop his power gain. You also stop Rich get richer. There's not much else to say. It's fairly straightforward fight. Most of what this node does gets countered by any tactic champion. Just parry him a bunch in the beginning. He can't shrug you off. Power gain's not going to be there. And then, you know, just manage the fight best you can. Moving on. Iron Man Infinity War. I brought in Hercules for it, but I accidentally KO'd my Hercules. This was the mistake that I made on the Lady Deathstrike because Hercules couldn't outdamage the region. So I just ended up using Kushala. The big thing, the one mistake that I was making in this fight is I was by accident trying to punish him mid-heavy, but realistically it's just a straightforward Iron Man Infinity War fight. This ebb and flow knockdown, so you want to keep him knocked down. You don't want to rely on champions that build up a ton of debuffs on Iron Man Infinity War. And other than that, again, x-magica tactic, if you do use that champion, as long as you build up some prowess, you don't need to worry about his power gain at end of the fight. You just need to worry about the auto block, so that's making it significantly easier. So again, I do kind of recommend a tactic champion unless you bring in direct counter. Spot, just use shield, very straightforward fight. Don't let him go unblockable. It is against Spot we have debuff build up unblockable, so if you get 3 debuffs on you, he will go unblockable. So I just used the Chilled, purified the debuffs when he was throwing special attacks, kind of played it slow, punished his level 1s, and wasn't anything too crazy. You do not want to let Spot go unblockable unless you are 2. You can still use champions like Kingpin or other skilled champions that purify plenty, because then his unblockability will matter significantly less, because you don't ever risk hitting into his block. Against Void, you absolutely want somebody who deals with debuffs very well. My personal choice there was Chilled, just to, you know, cover all bases, because Chilled has those cleanses all the time there. So I don't suffer from the power stings from one too many hits and Void's own abilities. But, you know, you also have Jabari Panthers, you have Baron Zemos. I think High Sig Crossbones should do fine. I think Mantis should do fine. Most of the skill purified champions. As long as you can get rid of the debuffs, you should be okay. Or you can just go in for the nuke, I suppose. But, you know, that's going to be some items. And then again, Shuri discussed that fight already. And just as a little helpful thing, here I want to show you guys the tactic champions yet again. So we are focused on x-magica attack tactic. Magic Thief doesn't really help us this time. So we're looking at these mystics and these mutants. If you do want to have access to this spreadsheet, I will add it to the video description. You can go to File, make a copy, and then you can make your own team, or, you know, do whatever notes you want with this. So I will link this spreadsheet in the video description below, just so it can help you a bit. But yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys find this helpful, and I'm gonna catch you guys tomorrow morning. Bye-bye. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the